Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Knuckles the Echidna here, and ladies and gentlemen, it's my birthday today! Yes, I am now 21 years old at this point, so yes, I'm Knuckles the Echidna here from the likes of the Mercy Toys videos, and as you expected, yes, welcome back to more Let's Play of Pac-Man Party for the Nintendo Wii /Nintendo 3DS. So I believe it was on last Sunday, if I remember correctly, that we did recently going through the forms of fourth board in the game, Crystal Cliffs. And today, ladies and gentlemen, although despite the fact the forms that I did manage to win that no problemo whatsoever in the forms within Crystal Cliffs. And today for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, especially today is the fact that we are going to be doing a finale of the actual board games themselves in Pac-Man Party and the final board of the game. In this case, the fifth and the final board of the game, and that is the forms of Celebration Avenue. For the forms of, like, if you're actually going for this on story mode, you know exactly how this will sound. So even then, well, so if you ever play this on the 3DS version, this is the third and the final board in the game, which again, because it actually has a lesser amount of content than the likes of the superior Nintendo Wii version, but that's just how I think it is. So, as you can see on the player's choices, I'm going to be selecting Roger, the almighty robot in this board, because this place is going to be filled with all these little presents, gifts, and balloons, and especially decorations all in general, and also plenty of mini robots themselves, Steve and Neno. And following beyond that, we also got these opponents, like, for instance, we've got ourselves Pac-Man here, because we figured that we should able to select him for the final board as the CPU's department. And, also, the returning of the forms of Blinky ever since during the last video, if I remember. Oh no, not the last video, but the last board. Oh boy. We have a 3 tiebreaker thing right there, and I've lost. Terrific start for this board, actually, so... Oh well, no big deal though, because even then, today was obviously the forms of the 11th of October in 2018 and the first day, and as far as I've already noticed, I've already mentioned about this before, it was my birthday today, so this might be the perfect opportunity able to actually select this board during today, especially if it consists of my birthday today, and because of that though, I'm really pumped for it by the forms of like what kind of gifts I have for today. Even though that I managed to able to actually just invite Sonic and also Shadow, Styx, and pretty much all the other gang are going to be coming over for about just a moment. See, Nintendo. For now, I'm most likely going to have to concentrate on this board though. See, Nintendo. Again, as far as I've already noticed, is the fact that this is easily one of the shortest boards in the game. And you probably actually realize about this, is the fact that every time you're trying to start this board off, assuming if you're able to actually try to select the special course version, you normally have to select the amount of cookies you're about to be starting off with the forms of the actual selectables, with the forms of the amount of cookies you might as well get. Basically, it starts off with 10,000 for some reason, even though because this is the shortest board of the game. So I might as well decide to go for a normal fashion way, to able to go for like 1,500 instead of like 100,000, or no, not 100,000, 10,000 I should say. Alright, so Clyde is going to choose this lucky event here, and it's going to be... You gotta be kidding me. It happens the exact same time, too. Like, even when I play this game on my own time. Jeez, these computer players are so lucky for this point. Hey, oh well, we'll definitely try to win some minigames without a doubt, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty much low behind, like... I'm pretty sure I was a little bit lower from 1,000, so that could be the same applies for Pac-Man as well, because, you know, between me and Pac-Man at the moment, well, granted not right now, because as you can tell, Pac-Man is constantly going to be losing all of his cookies. Well, some of the cookies, I should say, so, yeah, I think that makes it pretty obvious for this rate, so... But again, that the actual, like, the layout itself is alright, but I mean, nothing too outstanding, I should say. In fact, I'll get into my final thoughts of the actual game boards themselves eventually. So, because of that though, we're just most likely have to go through this board until whenever I decide to able to actually give my final thoughts of the game boards themselves in this game, including the 3DS version as well. But I've already said things enough about the forms of Pac-Man Party 3D, of how bare bones that version can get. So anyways though, I probably should able to get, but like, let's just say I'll get, 6, 7, and 8. So, hopefully I don't get a low number from this point here. Oh, no. Why do I do that? Oh, I wasted my time. Fine, I'll take 2. Despite the fact this is actually the lower number I've got. Even though I haven't really got as many castles though, so I probably need to get one of them, so... And as far as the special event in this board is concerned, is the fact that I'm pretty sure Blinky managed to able to get to there right now. Basically, every time one of those players managed to able to get eaten the candy, whatever they do, the teddy bear or the stuffed teddy bear managed to able to actually decide to able to actually get their faces changed. So even then, like take for instance, whoever managed to able to start off the board off. Basically, the stuffed teddy bear was actually a little bit hunky-dory, and plus he was actually very cute and cuddly and all that stuff, and he's actually very joyful. And even then though, as soon as when the other players managed to able to eat the candies, or jelly beans as far as I like to call it them, the more that we actually ate some more candy, the more upsetting the actual stuffed teddy bear will become. So, yeah, we'll get into more details onto that as soon as if we're able to, you know, let the actual thing itself activate. So, but again, I do apologize if my dialogue is actually gone way too corny at these days. So, oh, we got a new minigame here. Okay, it's about time actually. And this minigame is called Cookie Stamper. Aim with the pointer and cut out cookies. Careful, you can't cut out cookies over holes. The player with the highest score wins. So basically, you have to like create as many of those cookies as you want. So any kind of cookie shapes for this matter. So even then, I believe the power cookie on this minigame though, it might be very overpowered, and plus it's incredibly broken as well. Because all you're doing is just basically, it just cuts out the entirety of the actual dough itself, and then basically you get crap ton of points, and as a result being, yeah, it might be a little bit more unbalanced or something like that, whatever. It's nothing too unbalanced or anything, it's just how the fact of the matter is though, is that it might be a little bit overpowered, and plus, if you manage to able to play this with your friends, as I said this before, it'll be very, very boring every time you actually let one of your friends lose this, so... But even then though, as far as computer players are concerned, I wouldn't mind too much other than that, but this is one of those things about this game, seems to actually have ourselves a little bit more advantages when it comes to like, pretty much everything else for this recitable, so yeah, I did manage to win that, so even though I did not even defend my castle or anything, so it's just like, well, basically I just wanted able to get myself my power cookie back after using one for this particular minigame, and yeah. So it looks like we haven't gone that much when it comes to like the remainings of the minigames that we have not played yet. So even then, I probably missed count on that honestly, because even then it's been about a couple of days since actually coming back to this game pretty much though. So yeah, let's just go ahead and just continue. I need to get higher numbers than that. Even then, might as well go after 6. I might be alright with 6, but then again, because of how the fact of the matter is though, although I think I actually get the actual, like, the castle itself, actually. So, anyways, let's go ahead and eat some more candy. And, yeah, as you can see, the more the emotions of the forms of that stuffed teddy bear will go, the more upsetting that he'll become. So, even then, though, that he's always trying to be begging for more of the candy, because as you can tell, he's been blocked by the forms of those toy bricks. So, in this case, toy blocks, if whatever you want to try to say that. So, yeah, no, it makes it very obvious what this levels gimmick is all about, or even the actual special events as far as this is concerned. So, I'm pretty sure that between the differences between the normal events and the special courses is the fact that you will still able to come across into boss fights. So, yeah, I think that might be a little bit more of the exact same similarities as from those two modes. So, in this case, 2 different variations of those modes themselves, actually. So, anyways, though, we got another minigame to deal with right there. So, what should be this? It looks like we have... Okay, it's just this one again. So, you know, like how it does in Mario Party 4, Rumble Fishing, you know what I mean. So, a few things I want to explain about this, since this is my birthday today. I actually got myself quite a few gifts, actually. Presents, for instance. First of all, I've actually got myself new pairs of Joy-Cons for the Nintendo Switch, which are the neon red and neon blue. Although originally it might actually release the similar version of those two colors, but the ones I've got at the moment right now is the forms of the left red one and the right blue Joy-Con controller, which, because of the actual original packaging and all that stuff, because the only method you can only get when you're trying to able to get the left blue Joy-Con and the right red Joy-Con is by you need to able to buy another console of the Nintendo Switch. So I don't know if there's another method that you can able to get those two separate ones other than the used condition versions of those two controllers, but here's as far as I can tell from that point. And another of those Joy-Cons I've got. What? Really? Oh, okay, so we've actually got ourselves a 4-way tie victory right there, apparently. So yeah, this is one of those rare things about this particular minigame, as you can see. Most of the time, though, computer players wants to able to actually let this minigame finish and over with. So, and as a result being, I've actually got myself another power cookie right there. So, okay then, so that's something. Oh, I have no idea why. Computer players always becomes very random sometimes. But anyways though, and another pairs of Joy-Cons I've actually got, which there are neon green and neon pink colors, which even then, to be more specifically, neon green on the left and a neon pink on the right. So, because of the actual theme of the Splatoon suggests, now the fact of the matter is though is that I managed to able to get these two pairs of Joy-Cons for each of the two of those boxes. The reason why I managed to got those two is because or in this case, those 4 controllers now, because I've actually got myself 6 Joy-Cons right now. Granted, they are still very, very pricey with these things, and because the reason why I managed to got myself another 4 Joy-Cons with me right now, because I've actually got myself another present that I've got. And it's actually a very good one, actually. And that's the forms of Super Mario Party, because that's the reason why I decided able to go after those Joy-Cons, because, well, I figure why not. And because of the multiplayer purposes, I thought I might as well able to go ahead and do that. And plus, I haven't really used my gray Joy-Cons for that matter on my own time though, just because, well, I just want to able to keep them as a nice little condition as possible. And plus, the more I play these Joy-Cons, the more shinier and much more fingerprinted heavy with those Joy-Cons I've actually used, then you probably get the drill from that. So, because, you know, those little Joy-Cons, the Joy-Con joysticks, they always become very rubbery and all of a sudden and all that stuff. Even though it might be a little bit thicker, mind you, compared to the GameCube's joystick, and even the Nunchuck's joystick, and even especially noticeable with the Wii U joysticks, with the Wii U gamepad and all that stuff, that it might be a little bit of the same fabric or the same material. I'm not exactly sure, but I might as well able to research onto those. And yeah, that's the only things I probably should be able to point things out. And the second thing I've got for my birthday, or actually the third thing actually, and that's the forms of Mega Man 11 for the PlayStation 4. Now, originally we did try to able to actually upload the actual demo playthrough of the forms of, or the actual Let's Play of Mega Man 11 demo, but it turns out it didn't work as well as it used to be, because one time that Mega Man did manage to play for that demo on his own time, or in his case for his actual recording session on that, and what happens is that he keeps dying a lot. I think this is most likely because it's actually his first time playing through Mega Man 11, even though despite the fact that we haven't played Mega Man games for quite a while now, ever since 2 months ago, starting with the forms of the original Mega Man all the way up to Mega Man 10. So, yeah, I think Mega Man definitely needs to practice that a lot more, even by the forms of the actual, like, the double gear system and all that stuff. And quite frankly, though, with Mega Man 11 for the PlayStation 4, that way we've actually got ourselves our physical version of the game, because, you know, I'm not a big fan of the forms of the digital download-only games, like, for instance, back in 2017, I was expecting that Sonic Mania will be on the physical form as well, but it turns out it was actually digital download only. But it wasn't until in 2018 they managed to able to re-release the forms of, like, Sonic Mania as far as the expansion pack goes, but the forms of Sonic Mania Plus, And not only does it get ourselves a expansion pack DLC of the original Sonic Mania on a downloadable version of the game, but also it might actually release the physical versions of the games. So even then, that's why I've decided able to actually use that system as of now. And I felt the same way for Mega Man 11 for the PlayStation 4. The only exception being is the forms of the Nintendo Switch version, because obviously because the way how it looks. Even though that, except in the likes of the North American version, the North American version does have a physical version of Mega Man 11 for the Nintendo Switch. So at least I might as well able to actually just let the North American players will attempt to have it. But not so much for the UK, because obviously it seems to be quite rare these days with the forms of physical versions of some of the games originated from the downloadable version only. So it was worth bringing it up. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to be able to playing Mega Man 11, even though I've already, I'll explain more details about the forms in the next couple of days or so, because even though there's not much else I can spoil things yet. So, and another thing, and I believe this might actually be another, I think this might be the final definition item I've got for my birthday, actually, and that is the forms of the Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition. Because the reason why I've managed to able to got that system to begin with, because if you already couldn't tell, back in Christmas 2017 unboxing video special about almost a year ago right now, even though it's almost like 10 months ago actually, we've actually already got ourselves the Super Nintendo Classic Mini. That we've actually got ourselves with it back in Christmas last year. And yeah, it's about time for us though anyway. We've got Holiday Hustle right there, so we'll play this one again. So I'll need to be very quiet for just a moment. In fact, let's go ahead and use the power cookie, because since I'm going to be in attack mode, I need to claim my castle right there. God, it's a lot more Wacko-fest than it looks. Anyway, as far as the NES Classic Mini is concerned, this might actually be my first time I've ever held the forms of the NES controller. Even though, granted, I usually saw the Nintendo Entertainment System console before, but that was back in about, let's just say, a decade ago right now. And because of that, I was originally trying to able to test that out and when I was in Shadow the Hedgehog's room, but he wouldn't let me do that because he actually uses Chaos Blast right in front of me as soon as I'm able to actually sneak into his room. So I thought it was just worth mentioning. And unfortunately though, Clyde was actually in the lead again. So I definitely need to get some more cookies than, you know, Clyde will about to be conceived of. So gotta find another way to do it. And as far as what I've played, the NES Classic Mini, basically, I actually do really enjoy in some of these games, like, of course, obviously, The Legend of Zelda, the original, and especially notable with the forms of Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3, well, the only exception being Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, because that was originated on Japan only. And, also, Castlevania 1 and 2, even though despite the fact that some fans think Castlevania 2 is definitely one of their least favorite games of the series, well, nothing awful or anything, unlike Castlevania The Adventure for the Game Boy. Yeah, let's just say on the Game Boy. But, it could be worse though. But, another game is worth mentioning I did manage to play through, of course, is obviously Kirby's Adventure has always been one of the greatest games to be released on the NES for that day. And, also by the forms of Metroid as well. Kid Icarus as well is also one of them. And, while there are some games that can't stand out, is the forms of, like, Ghosts and Goblins for the NES, because of how bull-bustingly difficult that game can be. And I can never really could imagine I can't even beat the game at will, because obviously that game has a lot of trial and error moments, especially with these cheap enemy placements, and you get the suggestions with the forms of Ghosts and Goblins for the NES, basically, so. And usually, because, you know, it's usually as far as you can tell, bloody hardcore gamers out there manage to get frustrated with the actual game. Even especially noticeable in level 6, or in this case, just, you know, stages 5 and 6 can usually just goes to oblivion because of that one annoying condition. But even then, that's for a later time. And, that was it, obviously, but it forms that the majority of the items I did got from my birthday today. Aside from another extra item, which thanks to Cap King 74 did Master recently gave me this during today, and that is the forms of a complete Sword Art Online Season 1 complete DVD, which I will admit though right away that I haven't really mentioned to you guys about this. I'm actually a big fan of the forms of Sword Art Online. In fact, this actually is one of my favorite anime, the Japanese anime style TV series I've ever seen. Especially noticeable because I'm still a gamer, and excuse me. And because of that though, because I really like how the fact with the forms of how intense the actual battles were, especially noticeable how romantic of the forms of Kirito and especially Asuna. Oh my god, these are by far the greatest cute couple ever. Even though if you haven't seen the actual anime of the forms of Sword Art Online, definitely recommend it. And I've especially noticeable how I've seen the movie of the Sword Art Online, which is the forms of the ordeal scale, and that was actually pretty great as well. Even though I've actually popped over to see Stuart from Capcom 74 for a little while, and he did recently got himself a Blu-ray version of that film, even though he still got himself the PlayStation 3, and especially noticeable with his PlayStation 4, even though he only uses his PlayStation 3 at the moment, because normally he uses his PlayStation 3 to able to actually play Team Fortress 2, because I've already... did the others mention about this? I don't think so. Because basically, he also got himself the forms of another PlayStation 3 game he was actually really into at this point, and that is actually forms of Team Fortress 2, in the forms of the Orange Box compilation game, which normally contains like contains Half-Life 2. I believe it's actually Episode 1, I think, and Portal. Still live or something like that. I'm actually being very curious to try out Portal actually, because I've heard so many great things about the forms of the original Portal. And finally, of course, is the forms of Team Fortress 2. Even though that makes it a little bit obvious for that how popular that game could be, but in forms of not just for a first-person shooter, but in the forms of the PC gaming and all that stuff. Even though granted he does also got himself Team Fortress 2 on PC Steam, so he could expect you to be able to play online with, but even then, no, that's as far as I can say about this as will go. And, yeah, that's what I can really think about for the time. So yeah, very great birthday altogether, but even then, though, as far as the actual, like, day is concerned, well, there's not much else I can really talk about for this, to be honest, other than the actual gifts that I've got, thanks to the forms of, well, additionally, by the forms of one of my, friends, by the forms of Sonic and Daffy Duck, and especially noticeable for Applejack, and especially noticeable with the forms of the Powerpuff Girls especially, were able to actually come over and see me during today, and to see what my actual process of the forms of like the presents that we've got rather. And as a result of that tradition, I'm very happy and grateful about this little kinds of stuff. The only thing I might be a little bit worried about this at this point is the fact that, if you probably did not know already, there's actually a little bit of a question mark moment by the forms of entering the likes of in Sonic Stadium website. There might be apparently there's going to be something to do with Team Sonic Racing's release date, because originally they're trying to able to release that at some point in 2018, like somewhere during this winter, or in this case this holiday season. But I really don't know if there's anything of possibilities if that's going to be happening, because I heard from the forms of a Russia magazine, of the forms of the game magazine from Russia, they managed to be able to report that on top of the forms of the actual logo of Team Sonic Racing, they said by the forms of sometime in 2019, or in this case 2019, which I was a little bit skeptical at first, because because thanks to the forms of, Sonic is still managed to able to actually going back into the forms of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transforms, even though, again, that particular Let's Play will about to be continued, even though it might be a little bit of a delay going on right there, because obviously that, well, we'll discuss more to that later, well, usually for the time being, but for now, until it gets to November, because I'm not enjoying this month, because obviously, again, we'll discuss more into that as soon as we get to that certain points throughout, so... Anyways, though, I think that's what I can really say about the forms of the birthday stuff out of the way, so let's just get into the forms of, like... Even though I haven't really got that much items, though, even though I've only just got quite a few items, actually, just because of the actual money I can able to get. or in this case cash rather, and it's just a matter of how the fact that there's going to be some other items I might as well consider getting on my own time, especially noticeable by the forms of like, not until when it gets to like Christmas I'll get even more items. Well, a little bit of items because again, I was a little bit more skeptical about the Team Sonic Racing's release date, just yet though. So even then, there goes my level 4 castle's been grown. I'm not a big fan of this actual model of this, honestly, because usually all it gets is just a little bit of a Lego brick set of the castles themselves, actually, so, but that's just me. So, yeah, anyway, I'm also able to go after either 5 or 8. I think I should probably go for 5, just because I need to get even more cookies than Clyde will. Come on! What is going on with my timing today, with all the slot machines and all that stuff? I think its reason being for that is because I was a little bit too early to able to actually do a well-timing button presses and stuff. Jeez. Anyway, I believe we got another battle game coming up, but even then, no, that wasn't until after this little cinematics has been over and done with. And even then, oh my god, another battle game, okay. So, we got ourselves, not only Blinky and Pac-Man are going to be able to trying to get my castle, but also Clyde is going to go after Pac-Man's castle, so let's see what minigame are we going to be doing with this time, either a new one or a just repeated one. In fact, we have a new one here, even though I'm not a big fan of this one though. So, rolling blocks, skillfully maneuver around the rolling blocks and don't get squished. The last player standing wins. So, the reason why I'm not a big fan of this minigame, honestly, just because of how the fact that it's probably because of the actual depth perception, because rarely do I able to actually just try to squeeze for the actual hole, but sometimes I just easily get squished. So even then, as a result, it can give me a lot of trial and error and troublesome at times, because even then, sometimes I was doing so well at the time, but sometimes the minigame itself just attempts to screw me over most of the time, so as a result being, it can give me a lot of bad victories for that department for that little stimulating stuff. So even then, that's only because of how the fact that I was desperate to able to actually just trying to get even more cookies, even trying to able to win the minigames themselves, but sometimes I might as well get screwed over every now and then just because, although the only thing about this minigame though is the fact that you can able to actually shove these computer players onto the opposite directions and stuff, but other than that though, I'm just not a big fan of this minigame, although because of the actual depth perception is got a little bit too lacking, especially this point here. I can never seem to bypass this part, because I just never really tell if I was going to be able to be fast enough, because if I managed to able to make it there in time, I would be safe. But on the other hand though, that doesn't really apply from this point right there, so yep, looks like I got screwed over here, so fine, I'll let Blinky manage to get that castle, so that really messes me up though, but even then, no, that's only because of the depth perception is gone. Well, it's nothing to do with the actual platforming, because there was no jump button whatsoever, so you have to like maneuvering walking, so as a result, I just easily get screwed over, so that's a bit of a waste of opportunities, you know? So from now on though, I'm just gonna have to use my power cookie to get that minigame done with, even though by the way, we've played this one before, so obviously, we don't have to go for explanations all over again, so we can just go ahead and do that. And that way, I believe Clyde is now managed to able to claim himself his castle now, so lucky for him. Okay. Alright, so it looks like Blinky's castle's gonna be upgraded to level 3. Jeez. No wonder why he's got 3 castles at the moment. Could have able to actually win that castle, but I didn't land on that spot, so oh well, no big deal. Besides, I'm still in the lead at the moment, so I wonder what number should I go for next. Oh jeez, I feel a little bit puzzled at the moment. Let me try to think here. I suppose I could able to go for like 4. Okay, 7. That 7 is fine, because I'm also able to actually go ahead and just, you know, I think I should probably go after 7 actually, because I need to get even more cookies from there here on, so yeah, now I think you get the idea with this point right here. Alright, so Looks like I'm now back in the forms of the actual stuff itself, even for the actual cookie factory here. So I'm pretty much all sorted for now for the actual cookies amount as far as I'm aware. And yeah, we're almost there to the actual 10,000 cookies amount. And it looks like it's gonna get closer to the forms of the actual event is about to happening after like several of those candies has been eaten. And Pac-Man's gonna take the alternative route here to able to actually make the path a little bit more faster. So yeah, as far as you might think about it. In fact, this place does remind me of the almost exactly similar to the forms of the Mario Kart 8 rendition of Ribbon Road, but the forms of one of the DLC stages in you know, in Mario Kart 8 / Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But except the fact that it's just a party game. So anyways, looks like Pac-Man is going to be using his I don't know, hovering boots. Okay, quick edit right there, because as you can clearly tell, Sonic just came over and just say, happy birthday for us, so everything else already accounted for anyway, so. Alright, 4 will be fine, at least as far as I've noticed something like this, until whenever I start to realize how the fact that I might as well able to still get myself lower numbers, not to mention, but either way, let's just go ahead and, let Pac-Man just manage to proceed on things, and it looks like, yep, all the jelly beans, especially the candy, is already being eaten all. And if that wasn't bad enough, I believe... Oh, no one else is gonna make it though yet. But don't worry, until either me or some players else were able to eventually make it there, but I'm pretty sure Blinky might actually go there next. So even then, if that's being the case, then we can able to actually realize how the fact that if this is what happens if you manage to able to eat the rest of the candy. So, well, to be more specifically, the stuffed teddy bear's candy. So, because, you know, he's always trying to be begging for it, so. And if I'm guessing this correctly, it might actually be Pac-Golf, because I can definitely tell for the actual, like, the actual environment of this particular location. Oh yeah, one thing worth mentioning though is the fact that between the differences of the Wii version and the 3DS version is the fact that, I'm feeling a little bit disappointed on the 3DS version because of how the fact that, that I think that the 3DS version is easily the worst version of the bunch because, well, they skipped over the cinematics, which I think I might be alright with it, but they did manage to ruin the actual, like, the introduction to the actual minigames themselves. And also another thing is the fact that they've actually removed all the townspeople, including the ghosts themselves. Even then, I think it's the only another reason I prefer the Wii version over the 3DS version, in my opinion. And also worth mentioning, though, is the fact that between the Wii version, as you can see, that most of the characters did have... Sorry, a little bit of a tangent right there. Basically, every single character does have a different expressions, but every time whenever either win or lose the minigame. However, that cannot be the same applies for the 3DS version because they pretty much stuck with just one expression, and that's about it, which I think is actually pretty lame if you ask me. But usually, because I still think the Wii version is definitely the superior of the whole bunch, or at least one of the two versions of the game, because, you know, there is no third version or anything like that, so it's just mainly two versions of the game, so I don't think they can able to make Pac-Man Party 2, because I'm pretty sure that the Mario Party series does that superior, because, you know, fun variety of minigames, unique concepts here and there, even in some emphasis like, you know, gimmicks, they always make everything's unique. For when it comes to like every single Mario Party games for console departments right now, so yeah, including the likes of the latest game in the series, Super Mario Party, for the HD rumble function, and especially with the Joy-Con controllers and stuff like that for that nature. But you know, you get the drill for that point. So how much minigames that we've got? Oh jeez, we got 3 battle games we're gonna have to deal with right there. And yeah, this might take a while to finish them. Alright, first battle game in this lineup, and this will actually be either new or... Okay, I think we've played this before actually, so Donut Hole, so... Yeah, we played that before. Hopefully I'm also able to claim this castle right now, so... But if not, then I'm also able to actually just, be like, whatever. I'm also able to actually go after it for some specific, castles I desperately want to be needed, so... But even then, that I'm probably not gonna use my power cookie for a little bit of a while, because obviously I need to save them. If most of my castles needs to be defending, because if it goes like attack or defending mode, I might be alright with it. But if not, then I might as well able to not use them for a while. So out they go. So yeah, you probably get the actual idea of this. So yeah, there I go. I've managed to able to get my castle. So even though thanks to my attack victory strategies being victorious. Jeez, Pac-Man and Blinky are all tied. Seems to me anyway.